Mr. Smith.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moon.
Okay, so this is going to be done in 10 minutes?
Yes, and
All
so
right.
we are going to, we don't feel the need to do a full budget update given that our Board of Supervisors have fully funded our budget. You've seen the presentation multiple times. You saw it at the joint meeting. You saw it from Dr. Brabrand. So we're not going to spend a lot of time doing that, but we are going to talk about the impact of what's happening at the state now. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Burden, and she will, and we'll all have a discussion about what's happening at the state.
As Mr. Smith said, you all know the advertised budget totals $2.9 billion, an increase of 118.9, or 4.3% over the fiscal 18 approved budget. This is a unique year in that the county executive stepped out with a budget that fully funds the schools with a tax rate assumption of $1.155 per $100 of assessed value, or a 2.5-cent increase over the current tax rate, and that's the advertised rate. Normally, this budget work session considers potential reductions, which are not needed at this point. We built the FCPS advertised budget using the governor's introduced budget for the state's revenue assumptions, and the state revenue increase is slightly over $26 million. On February 18th, the House and Senate separately adopted amendments to the governor's introduced budget. The Senate proposed amendments would result in a 0.4 million increase, but it's for Virginia Preschool Initiative, and so that would go to the county. And then the House proposed amendments would result in a 3.4 million increase to the school operating fund due to a lottery per pupil initiative. The General Assembly was unable to reach consensus on its budget by the adjournment date of March 10th. And on March 13th, Governor Northam announced that the General Assembly would convene its special session on April the 11th to complete the budget work. So you all probably already know that the budget bills and amendments considered during the regular session are technically dead. The governor will send down a new budget bill. It could be similar. It could be very different. We don't know. The General Assembly money committees will consider this new budget and make any amendments that they feel important. With this short time frame, it's also anticipated that the amendments will be similar to House and Senate budgets considered during the regular session. Once both houses of the General Assembly consider and reject each other's amendments, it'll again go to the conference committee. So, and much of this may be done before the General Assembly even meets on April the 11th and may be done behind closed doors. We'll continue to monitor the process as much as we can. But you should know that there is a big disparity between the two budgets, so it's unlikely that either of them will prevail. But increases that were assumed in the advertised budget for FCPS were largely the result of rebenchmarking and the LCI decrease, so it's doubtful that our numbers will change. Additional considerations that should be brought to your attention are the spring enrollment projections that somebody referenced earlier. We are expecting an additional increase in enrollment over the fall projections, but we're still finalizing those. And at the April work session, we will bring information about the spring enrollment projections and the impact or the funding that those increases will create.
Okay, I'm going to start with a couple of questions on this one, just for clarification purposes. When the county executive recommended to the Board of Supervisors to fully fund our request, that we were asking for 4.9% transfer at the time, and the numbers they were using is, even though it's a fully funding, they were assuming that we would get higher state revenue than what was put in our advertised budget. So it was like a 4.38% or 4.4% would be the transfer if that remained true throughout the whole process. That's based upon governor's proposed budget, correct? So if he could tell us the differences between, in terms of the amount, between governor's proposed amount, proposed budget versus House version and Senate version. Are both Senate and House version higher than governor's for us? Okay,
Yes.
I wanted to get the amounts one more time. What?
The Senate's 0.4 million, and that is for the Virginia Preschool Initiative. And so that goes to the county. It wouldn't go to us. And then the House budget would result in a $3.4 million.
That's the 3.4. Mm-hmm. So there is a huge difference between the governor's proposal versus either House's version for us.
There's not.
Okay? Even though the difference between House and Senate is in the tune of what? Hundreds of millions of dollars, $400 million, $500 million.
I don't know for the entire Commonwealth.
Okay, all right. Well, then I'm going to open up the questions and comments to colleagues on the board on this one. Corbett Sanders.
You're starting to see the increase in numbers and of students. Do we think that the increased number of students reflect the demographics of the increases over the past several years, and are they concentrated in one area of the county? What do you know about those numbers?
We've not finalized those numbers yet. That's something that we're still looking at. We'll have some more information. We'll have final information in April, but we need a little bit more time to be able to nail down exactly, although we do believe that the numbers are going up.
It would be helpful for each of the board members to have an understanding of where the numbers are going up, so that it's not only a gross number, but that we see how many are going up in each of the areas and the makeup of those increases.
Yes, and we will provide that in our subsequent work session, and we normally do that in the work session following this work session.
Anybody else? Dana Colfax?
I'm not sure if I'm going to have this, if you're going to understand my question, but I'm kind of trying to follow up on Ilyan's comments. But for us, what does that, I guess what I'm looking for is what does that mean in our overall budget? Because to fully fund they were expecting a certain amount, which that number's not in my head, but they were expecting a certain amount from state funding, and they were thinking the state funding was significant. So I know we can't be, fortune tellers and figure out what's actually going to happen, but I think you have numbers right now that can tell us where are we going to be seeing is there a deficit from what the county had projected the state would give us, or our own internal projections?
No. I think the difference that everybody may be struggling with is that we had the superintendent's proposed budget, which was not based on the governor's introduced, but our staff calculated what they thought the impact of the rebenchmarking and the reduction to the LCI was. But of course, it's a projection. We have to wait on the state. And so we were ultra conservative in that. So then when the governor's introduced budget came out, the result of the rebenchmarking and the reduction of the LCI ended up being $8.7 million more than what we assumed in the superintendent's proposed budget.
Okay.
So that's that extra difference that makes it work with the county numbers.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me try this just one more time, because there is still big question on my mind about the differences between Senate and House version here. Because a few days ago, I was having a conversation with a state delegate, obviously supporting House version, and the Senate version does not include 2% pay raise for the teachers, and that has to be a significant amount, even for Fairfax County, one county alone. So I wonder whether shouldn't that be more than just a few $1 million you're talking about?
Neither the House nor the Senate included a compensation increase until
Really?
2020.
Until to second year.
2020, yes. Second year of the biennium.
Second year, so it has no effect upon 19. All right. I'm going to send in more budget questions based on because I still see that the difference being several hundred millions of dollars, and bulk of that has to go to K through 12 public education funding. And if we are 1/7, 1 out of every 7 students in the entire Commonwealth is in Virginia, in Fairfax County. 1 out of 7. 1 out of 7. So I was expecting, significantly more than just 3 million or $600,000. So I'm gonna send you some questions, okay? All right. So with that, is there any next step for this portion? If not, we adjourn. Wow, now we caught up. We'll take a 2-minute recess. These are my cupcakes.
You just earned one.
What? She's got a lot more cupcakes. Yes, thank you. Oh, thank you. One more cupcake. All right, thank you. With your cooperation.